2 airmen assigned to the Stallion Range radar site as technicians observed a UFO land near the outer building to the radar site.
There are moments in history when the world you think you live in suddenly cracks open, revealing something so strange, so undeniable, and so far beyond human understanding that nothing feels the same afterward. Former Air Force intelligence officer Richard Doty described one of those moments, not as a rumour, not as a theory, but as an event he claims unfolded right in front of trained military personnel inside a restricted zone of the Stallion Range, a stretch of land designed for tests, secrets, and silence. The night something landed that wasn't supposed to exist. This is a place where nothing is supposed to surprise anyone, yet something did. Doty didn't talk about this encounter with the confidence of a man exaggerating a story. He spoke like someone trying to steady himself as he revisited memories that defied language. He described a craft that descended through the night sky without making a sound, glowing with a steady white-blue radiance that pulsed like a living thing. He said the landing was controlled and deliberate, as if the visitors knew exactly where they were and exactly who would be watching. It was not the first time New Mexico had been associated with strange visitors. For decades, the land had been marked by stories of lights in the sky, strange shapes hovering over desert plains, and silent objects moving in ways no aircraft should. Long before Doty ever told his story, there was the Lonnie Zamora incident, a moment still listed as unknown in the official records of Project Blue Book. A police officer saw 2 small beings beside a shining craft. He saw it ignite a roaring blue and orange flame. He watched it lift into the sky and disappear. He reported the sound. He reported the heat. He reported the fear in his chest, a fear he could not explain. People laughed at him. Yet Project Blue Book, the Air Force's own investigation, could not. They didn't dismiss it. They didn't solve it. They filed it away as one of the rare cases they could not explain. Doty's story happened in the same land, under the same sky, with the same eerie silence settling over the desert just before something impossible appeared. He said the craft was shaped like nothing he had ever seen. Smooth, seamless, metallic, yet strangely organic in its curves. Almost like it had grown rather than been built. There were no windows, no markings, no visible doors. The light around it didn't reflect off the metal but seemed to breathe from inside the craft itself. It hummed, not like a machine, but like a vibration passing through the air, the ground, and the bones of anyone standing close enough. What happened next was the moment that split the night in 2. The craft opened. Not with a hatch or a mechanical sound, but with a soft spreading of light, as if the surface itself had melted away. And from that opening stepped beings that the military personnel had no training to prepare for. Doty described them as tall, thin, and almost translucent, their skin giving off a faint glow like moonlight seen through a cloud. Their movements were slow but precise, as if they were perfectly aware of every motion, every sound, every human staring at them in disbelief. Their eyes were large, black, reflective, filled with something that felt both curious and unsettling. They did not walk like humans. They glided, their steps too smooth for the terrain. The air changed when they moved, almost as if the space around them bent slightly. The soldiers reacted the way soldiers are trained to react. Weapons were raised, commands were shouted. Fear flooded the scene before anyone could stop it. Doty said the first shots were fired not because someone wanted to start a fight, but because someone's instinct overtook their reason. A single bullet cracked through the air, a sharp reminder of how fragile human judgment becomes when the unknown stands only a few feet away. Then the firing intensified. Muzzle flashes lit the night as the soldiers emptied rounds toward the beings, desperate to regain control of a situation already far beyond them. But the bullets never touched the visitors. They hit something invisible. Doty said the rounds changed direction in midair, bending like they had hit a solid wall, an unseen barrier that formed instantly around the beings. The bullets fell to the ground, flattened and harmless. The soldiers were certain the beings would react with aggression. Instead, they simply stood still, as if the entire exchange was an expected part of the encounter. This detail, this strange and eerie calm, echoes ancient stories of gods who stepped into human villages without fear, knowing nothing humans did could threaten them. It mimics old myths of visitors descending from the sky, not with violence, but with curiosity. Whether those stories were metaphors or misunderstood encounters, the pattern remains. Humans panic, the visitors don't. Doty claimed that one soldier fell to the ground from pure shock, believing he was witnessing something beyond any earthly explanation. Another soldier tried to run but collapsed, overwhelmed by the strange hum in the air. Machines malfunctioned, radios cut out, a vehicle engine died without warning. And through all of this, the beings did nothing but stand calmly in the desert night, observing. Some people believe extraterrestrials have always visited without hostility, appearing at moments they choose, not to fight, but to study, to test, maybe to warn. Others believe they come because humanity has reached a point in its evolution where the next stage requires understanding we don't yet have. Many cultures tell parables about moments when the unseen world makes itself visible, testing whether humans respond with fear or with wisdom. Seth-like philosophies suggest that what we encounter reflects our inner state. Fear creates threat, while curiosity creates understanding. But the soldiers that night did not know any of this. They knew only fear, training, and the electric shock of the impossible unfolding before them. After the gunfire stopped and the silence returned, the beings moved again, slowly, deliberately. They approached the place where the bullets had fallen, almost studying the flattened metal like artifacts. Then one of them reached into the craft, or perhaps the craft simply opened for it, and retrieved a small object. Doty said it glowed like a warm ember, pulsing with a soft, rhythmic light that made the desert feel suddenly alive. He believed it was some kind of communication device, not a weapon, not a threat, something meant to be seen. The being held it out, not aggressively, but with a calm, almost ceremonial motion. No one moved, no one breathed, no one dared step closer, but the message was unmistakable. They wanted the humans to take it. This should have been the moment that changed everything, the moment of direct contact, the moment of truth. But fear won again. A senior officer shouted for the men to stand down and retreat. No one was to approach the beings, no one was to touch the object, no one was to take a single step closer. It was as if the military believed that accepting the device would cross a line that could never be uncrossed. And just as quickly as they had appeared, the beings withdrew. The object dimmed and disappeared back into the craft. The opening sealed itself silently. The craft lifted without sound, hovering for a moment before shooting into the sky with such speed that it left no trail, no heat, no smoke, only a trembling silence that lingered long after it was gone. Doty claimed that within minutes, officials arrived. Within hours, the entire area was secured. Within days, every soldier present was briefed, questioned, silenced, and warned. Officially, nothing happened. Unofficially, no one who witnessed that night ever forgot it. This encounter echoes through every UFO sighting that has rattled the edges of human understanding, from Zamora's unexplained craft to the countless reports of beings who emerge, observe, and leave without explanation. Something is happening in the desert. Something has been happening for decades. Doty believed this wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate moment of contact, a test, a message, a warning, or all three. Patterns in the sky and the echoes of contact. The encounter at Stallion Range was not an isolated event, although at the time it may have appeared to be. When Richard Doty recounted what he saw, he emphasized that every detail, the glowing craft, the translucent beings, the unexplainable force that repelled bullets, and the strange pulsing device, fit into a pattern that had been emerging in reports for decades. The world of UFOs, of extraterrestrial presence, is not a collection of random, disconnected sightings. Rather, it is a tapestry, woven with threads of human perception, expectation, and the undeniable evidence of phenomena that defy conventional explanation. Every sighting, every report, every inexplicable flash in the sky becomes part of a larger design that, when viewed closely, suggests intention, awareness, and communication. Patterns emerged in other locations as well. Across deserts, remote plains, and isolated military bases, sightings of crafts exhibiting extraordinary maneuvers or beings moving with deliberate precision were reported. Pilots, radar operators, civilians, and law enforcement officers consistently described objects that accelerated beyond the capabilities of conventional vehicles, shifted direction instantaneously, and emitted lights that were neither natural nor artificial. Some reports even described the ability of these crafts to manipulate physical reality in ways that challenged the very principles of physics. Bullets deflected, engines stalled, electronic systems malfunctioned. While skeptics argued these events were hallucinations or misperceptions, the consistency of accounts from trained, experienced observers suggested something far more extraordinary was occurring. Doty argued that the significance of these incidents went beyond mere curiosity or sensationalism. To him, the Stallion Range encounter revealed that these beings were not hostile in the traditional sense, yet they were fully aware of human behavior and reactions. They had chosen a setting where trained personnel, conditioned to respond to threats, would confront them. The fact that bullets had no effect, that weapons seemed useless, and that the beings moved without aggression all pointed to a calculated display of power and control. It was as if they were demonstrating to humanity the limitations of our technology, the constraints of our perception, and perhaps the futility of aggression in the face of intelligence that operates on entirely different principles. Philosophers and spiritual traditions have long suggested that human perception is limited by belief and expectation, that what we see is shaped by what we anticipate. Ancient parables speak of visitors from the stars or spirits from other realms testing humans' reactions, not to punish, but to observe, to teach, and to offer insight. The story of the gods descending to Earth to walk among mortals appears in countless cultural traditions, from the epics of Greece to the sagas of the Norse and the legends of indigenous peoples around the globe. These tales often describe beings who possess advanced knowledge, move with perfect intention, and challenge humans to expand their understanding. Viewed through this lens, UFO sightings are not aberrations but contemporary manifestations of a timeless theme: humanity encountering the unknown and being forced to confront its own limitations. The Stallion Range incident was particularly striking because it occurred within the controlled environment of a military base, a place designed to anticipate and neutralize threats. Soldiers and officers are trained to respond to danger with precision, speed, and aggression. The fact that the beings remained unharmed, unmoved by aggression, and capable of controlling the environment without apparent effort suggested a level of mastery that was entirely alien. Doty emphasized that this mastery was not destructive. There was no violence beyond what humans initiated, and the beings' calm demeanor conveyed that they were fully aware of the power imbalance yet chose restraint. This implied that their purpose was not conquest, but observation, testing, or communication, a deliberate engagement with human consciousness on our terms, yet from a perspective far beyond our comprehension. Eyewitness reports from other incidents reinforce this idea. Pilots, law enforcement officers, and civilians consistently describe a sense of awareness emanating from the craft or its occupants, a feeling that the beings understand human psychology in ways we barely recognize. Sometimes this awareness manifests as subtle nudges, objects that hover just beyond reach, lights that appear in patterns resembling signals, or behavior that mirrors human expectation to provoke a particular response. In other cases, it is more dramatic, as in the Stallion Range encounter, where the inability of bullets to penetrate the being's defense systems forced an immediate recognition of limitations and the impossibility of conventional aggression. This pattern, Doty argued, is evidence of a deliberate methodology, a kind of interaction that teaches without words, lessons without narrative, and awareness without intrusion. Throughout history, humanity has struggled with understanding phenomena that exceed its comprehension. Philosophers have suggested that the unknown is not inherently threatening, but our interpretation often makes it so. Plato's allegory of the cave, for example, illustrates the limitations of perception. Humans see shadows and believe them to be reality until they are able to step outside the cave and witness the forms casting the shadows. The encounters at Stallion Range and incidents like the Lonnie Zamora sighting can be seen as modern allegories of this same principle. Humans are confronted by something far greater than themselves, and our instinctive response is fear because we perceive only a fraction of what is truly happening. The beings and their crafts represent the forms beyond the shadows, revealing a dimension of reality that our current beliefs and instruments struggle to measure. It is also significant that sightings often include elements of communication, subtle or overt, even when language is absent. Doty described the glowing device retrieved by the beings as potentially symbolic, a form of nonverbal dialogue meant to provoke observation, curiosity, and understanding. Across centuries, accounts of alien encounters frequently include objects or gestures that appear designed to elicit human response, sometimes to warn, sometimes to test, sometimes to initiate contact in a way that does not violate autonomy. The objects themselves, their patterns of light, and the deliberate avoidance of physical confrontation suggest a level of intentionality that implies a consciousness far beyond our current technology and understanding. For Doty, the most unsettling element of the Stallion Range incident was the immediacy of recognition, the sense that the beings knew exactly what humans would do and exactly how we would react. Soldiers, trained to anticipate threats and control their environment, were rendered powerless in an instant. Machines failed. Communication systems broke down. Attempts at aggression were rendered useless. And yet, there was no panic from the beings. There was only awareness. This encounter challenged deeply held assumptions about control, power, and the nature of intelligence. It forced a confrontation not only with the unknown, but with the limits of human perception and preparedness, and it suggested that the rules governing human experience may not apply to consciousness that originates elsewhere. Even today, decades after the event, the Stallion Range encounter remains classified, shrouded in secrecy, and often dismissed by mainstream media or official channels. Yet the testimonies of trained personnel, the consistency of reports, and the corroborating accounts of other incidents create a compelling case for something extraordinary occurring in the skies over restricted areas. Whether these events represent extraterrestrial intelligence, interdimensional visitors, or phenomena not yet understood by science, the pattern is undeniable. A sustained series of encounters across time, geography, and human experience that challenges our understanding of what is possible. Doty's revelations are not just about craft or beings. They're about perception, about the boundaries of reality, and about the human response to forces that defy explanation. They suggest that our species may be encountering entities that operate on principles that challenge every assumption we have about matter, energy, and life itself. That encounters are not merely observational, but may carry layers of intentionality, inviting us to question, to learn, and to expand our understanding. The craft that defied everything. The most astonishing part of the Stallion Range incident wasn't just the beings, but the craft they arrived in. Unlike anything ever built on Earth, it seemed alive. Its surface was smooth, seamless, and almost liquid in appearance, reflecting the desert in strange, subtle ways, yet never quite behaving like metal or glass. It pulsed faintly with light, as if it had its own heartbeat, and when it moved, the motion was fluid, precise, and impossible for any human-made vehicle. There were no seams, no obvious doors, no windows, yet it allowed the beings to appear as if it were both machine and organism. The craft's landing alone defied explanation. It descended slowly from the sky with no sound, no turbulence, and no exhaust. The ground remained untouched, as if gravity and air pressure had been momentarily rewritten around it. Witnesses reported a hum, not loud or disturbing, but deep and vibrating through the air, through the body, and even through thoughts. It was not a sound that humans create. It was something different, something that seemed to exist outside normal physics, and yet it was unmistakably present. Once on the ground, the object did something that broke every expectation. It seemed to interact with the soldiers without touching them, almost as if it were aware of their presence. When weapons were fired, the bullets curved, deflected, or dropped harmlessly to the earth. No matter how many rounds were aimed at the beings or the craft, nothing penetrated, nothing caused damage, and nothing provoked retaliation. It was as if the technology was designed to test human aggression rather than respond to it. The craft's abilities suggested intelligence, not mechanical programming, and it forced a recognition that Earth was encountering something fundamentally different from anything previously imagined. Inside the glowing exterior there seemed to be a device of some kind. Witnesses described it as small, pulsing and warm, radiating a subtle energy that affected everything nearby. No one could understand its purpose, yet it carried a sense of deliberate intent, as if it had been placed in the world specifically to be seen. Some theorized it might have been a form of communication, a tool for observing human reactions, or a way to bridge understanding without using words. The fact that the beings carefully retrieved it and displayed it to the humans suggested a level of patience and intelligence far beyond anything known in human technology. The movement of the craft was remarkable. When it lifted off, it did so with a speed and precision that made conventional physics meaningless. No thrust, no sound, no disturbance. It accelerated so quickly it disappeared in an instant, leaving only a quiet afterglow and the shaking disbelief of everyone who saw it. Observers described a feeling that lingered long after the craft vanished, a combination of awe, fear, and the unsettling sense that the rules they had relied on all their lives no longer applied. Other UFO sightings show similar patterns. Across the globe, pilots, radar operators, and civilians report lights moving in impossible ways, objects that hover in mid-air for minutes without apparent support, and sudden accelerations beyond any known aircraft. Even when sightings involve large groups of witnesses, the craft moves with a precision that seems intentional, intelligent, and aware of human perception. Some theorists believe these objects may not come from our dimension. In the way we understand space and time, they appear, move, and disappear as if the rules of physics are not fixed around them. This idea is supported by the way they interact with the environment, deflecting bullets, disabling machinery, or passing through areas without leaving damage. Their technology operates on principles unknown to humans, and it forces the question of whether they are using energy, consciousness, or physics in ways that humans cannot yet conceive. The beings themselves add to the mystery. Their presence suggests they are not merely passengers, but active participants in the operation of the craft. They do not speak in any language known to humans, yet their behavior communicates awareness, intelligence, and observation. They appear to study humans closely, assessing reactions without aggression, testing without harming. This has led some researchers to conclude that contact is deliberate, controlled, and carefully measured, designed to interact with human perception without violating it. Across many cultures, stories of visitors descending from the sky often share these same qualities. Ancient texts describe beings with intelligence beyond human understanding who arrive silently, observe closely, and leave without violence. In some cases, they bring tools, knowledge, or signs intended to provoke insight or understanding. The Stallion Range encounter fits this pattern, suggesting a continuity between past myths and modern UFO sightings, a bridge between human storytelling and real experiences of something beyond our world. The craft's design also challenges assumptions about material science. Its surface did not reflect light the way conventional metal does, yet it was visible and glowing. It absorbed bullets without damage, suggesting a kind of shielding that does not conform to human engineering. Observers describe its edges as fluid, almost alive, expanding or contracting in ways that seem intentional rather than mechanical. Every feature points to intelligence, not randomness. The technology seems to serve not just transportation, but also interaction, observation, and perhaps even communication. Witnesses felt more than confusion or fear. They experienced a sense that the craft was teaching without speaking, demonstrating capabilities humans cannot yet comprehend. The impossibility of the object forced immediate humility, a recognition that control is not absolute, and that human assumptions about power and security are limited when confronted with intelligence and technology far beyond our own. It created a paradox. The more humans attempted to act in predictable ways, the more they realized their understanding was insufficient, yet the more they observed, the more they gained a sense of the craft's purpose, even if only partially. This purpose remains a mystery. Some suggest these encounters are tests measuring human response to the unknown. Others believe they are opportunities, moments designed to provoke curiosity, caution, and reflection. Ancient philosophies remind us that the unknown is not inherently hostile. It simply exists, and our reaction defines the experience. In this sense, the craft is both a physical presence and a mirror, reflecting human perception, expectation, and instinct back at those who witness it. The Stallion Range incident, with its combination of advanced technology, controlled interaction, and deliberate observation, exemplifies the most challenging aspect of UFO research. The encounters are not merely physical, they are experiential. The craft itself, its properties, and the beings that operate it are all components of an event that tests understanding, challenges assumptions, and reveals the limits of perception. The mystery does not lie solely in the mechanics of the object, but in the broader implications for human awareness, the rules of reality, and the possibility of intelligence beyond Earth. The visitors among us. The beings that emerged from the craft were unlike anything human eyes are meant to comprehend. They moved with a fluid grace that made every step, every gesture seem calculated and deliberate. Their presence carried a weight, not of physical mass, but of awareness. Humans nearby could feel it, though it was not spoken or broadcast. It was an impression, a resonance, a recognition that something intelligent, ancient, and vastly more advanced than ourselves was in the same space. Their form was humanoid enough to trigger instinctive recognition, but exaggerated in ways that unsettled the mind. Long limbs, elongated torsos, and heads that seemed slightly larger than natural gave them an alien quality that was almost dreamlike, yet they were palpably real. What struck witnesses most was the calm certainty in their movements. Even as bullets were fired, even as the air filled with panic, the beings did not flinch, retreat, or respond with aggression. They observed. They assessed. Their presence alone seemed to communicate understanding beyond language, as if they had anticipated every reaction and were prepared for each one without fear. The interaction was silent, yet it carried more information than words could convey. It was as if their mere existence was a statement, a question, and a demonstration all at once. A reminder that humans are not the only intelligence in the universe, and that the universe itself is more complex than the rigid categories of fear and control we cling to. Witnesses also reported that the beings seemed to interact with the environment in ways that defied physical explanation. When they approached the glowing device, it responded almost organically, pulsing, shifting, or emitting light in ways that suggested a connection beyond technology as humans know it. This interaction implied not only intelligence, but a deep understanding of systems, energy, and matter that humans cannot yet measure. Observers often describe a sense that the visitors exist in layers of reality we are barely capable of perceiving. They appear physical, yet intangible, present, yet somehow partially outside the laws that govern earthly life. The calm authority of the visitors also challenges ideas about intent. They were clearly aware of human fear, yet chose not to act aggressively. In some cases, observers felt a sense of testing, as though the visitors were evaluating human reactions, not to punish, but to measure, to communicate, or to provoke insight. This aligns with philosophical ideas found in many ancient traditions, that true intelligence does not seek dominance but understanding, and that wisdom often comes from observation, restraint, and subtle guidance rather than force. In this context, the presence of the beings is less about conflict and more about exposure to knowledge that humans are not prepared to fully grasp. The concept of intention becomes more striking when considering the broader pattern of sightings. Across decades and continents, reports consistently describe beings that are aware, intelligent, and capable of observing without immediate interference. Their interactions suggest a deliberate study of humanity, a patient evaluation of our responses to phenomena we cannot yet control. This behavior challenges the assumption that intelligence must act in ways humans understand. It implies an approach to contact that prioritizes observation and understanding over domination, control, or destruction. The emotional response of humans to the visitors is also significant. Observers often experience a mix of awe, fear, and fascination, accompanied by a recognition that their world has just shifted. These feelings are not caused solely by the appearance of the beings, but by the realization that humans are encountering a level of intelligence far beyond their comprehension. Philosophers have long suggested that the recognition of something beyond human understanding, something vast, precise, and conscious, forces a re-evaluation of our place in the universe. The beings at Stallion Range embodied this principle. Their presence was a catalyst, revealing that the universe is inhabited by consciousness that is not limited to humanity, and that understanding such consciousness requires humility, attention, and openness. Another aspect that fascinates observers is the apparent connection between the visitors and the craft. The two operate in tandem, yet the relationship is mysterious. The craft is not simply a vehicle, It appears to be an extension of the being's consciousness. It reacts to their presence, to human actions, and possibly even to thought. In some sightings, witnesses report lights changing, devices pulsing, or physical laws bending, always in response to the visitor's intention. The implication is that the craft is not a machine in the conventional sense, but a form of applied consciousness, a tool, an extension, and an expression of intelligence that humans cannot replicate or fully understand. Even the energy that emanates from these beings is difficult to describe. Observers often report a sensation that is neither warmth nor cold, neither light nor darkness, but a presence that affects the body, mind, and perception simultaneously. It creates a sense of weightlessness, heightened awareness, and emotional clarity. Some have likened it to experiences described in spiritual or mystical texts, moments when the boundary between self and universe feels thinner, when awareness expands, and when the ordinary rules of reality seem suspended. These experiences are rarely harmful. They are disorienting precisely because they operate outside human expectations. They suggest that the visitors possess a form of intelligence that is not merely technological, but multi-dimensional, capable of interacting with consciousness itself. Observers also noticed that the visitors' behavior often mirrors human curiosity, but at an advanced level. They study, they observe, and they respond to stimuli with a precision that humans can barely comprehend. Nothing seems random. No movement, no light, no gesture is without purpose. It is as if everything is a demonstration or a question posed to the humans around them. Yet the visitors do not push, they do not coerce, and they do not punish. Their presence itself is the message. It is an invitation to recognize a reality broader than the human mind can fully contain, and to witness intelligence that does not operate under the rules we take for granted. The implication of this observation is profound. Humans have long assumed that power is measured by strength, weapons, and control over physical resources. The visitors demonstrate that intelligence and capability operate on an entirely different scale. The craft, the device, and the beings themselves all communicate a form of mastery that transcends brute force. Their existence challenges assumptions about conflict, measurement, and authority, forcing the realization that the universe contains forms of awareness that are not only unfamiliar, but fundamentally beyond human attempts to dominate or manipulate. As night fell and the craft departed, the lingering impression on those who observed the event was one of awe tempered by uncertainty. The beings had not spoken, yet every action carried meaning. The environment had shifted, yet no destruction had occurred. The lesson was subtle. The universe is not simply physical, and intelligence is not defined by what humans understand as technology or power. The encounter left questions without easy answers, opening the door to a larger inquiry into the nature of consciousness, the rules of interaction, and the boundaries of reality itself. The glowing device and its message. One object stood out with a clarity that almost seemed impossible. A small glowing device retrieved from the craft by the visitors and shown deliberately to the humans nearby. It was neither weapon nor tool in any conventional sense. Its light was steady yet pulsing, warm yet intangible, as if it existed on a frequency that humans could sense but not fully measure. Witnesses described a strange resonance that filled the area around it, something that affected perception, attention, and even emotion, creating a sense that the world had shifted slightly to accommodate its presence. The device was not simply an object. It was an event condensed into a form humans could see and feel. The way the visitors handled it suggested purpose and meaning. They did not hand it over aggressively, nor did they force anyone to interact with it. Instead, they presented it in a deliberate, almost ceremonial manner, as though demonstrating something fundamental about intelligence and awareness itself. Observers sensed that it carried a lesson, a message, or a key to understanding something far beyond ordinary human experience. Its purpose remained opaque, yet its presence was undeniable, commanding attention and demanding reflection. Witnesses reported that the device's glow responded to focus, as if it was aware of who was looking at it and how they were perceiving it. Some described the pulsing of the light synchronizing with their own breathing or heartbeat, creating an uncanny sense of connection. Others felt an almost physical hum that seemed to reverberate through the ground and through their own bodies, a sensation that defied conventional physics. It was as if the object itself existed on multiple levels simultaneously, visible to the eye, tangible in sensation, and yet somehow present in ways the mind could only partially comprehend. Some theorists suggest that the device may have been a form of communication, not in words or symbols recognizable to humans, but in energy, vibration, and presence. The idea is that intelligence does not require language as humans understand it. It can transmit meaning through patterns, resonance, or awareness itself. The device may have been an instrument for bridging the gap between species, a way to demonstrate thought, intention, or principle without relying on speech. It might have been designed to provoke understanding, curiosity, or insight in humans who are capable of perceiving it without fear. The subtlety of its design is particularly remarkable. It was small, almost unassuming, yet its effect was profound. The glow seemed to hold attention without command, its vibration influenced perception without coercion, and its presence carried a weight that altered the atmosphere in ways that no one could fully describe. Observers repeatedly reported feelings of clarity, a heightened sense of awareness, and a kind of intuitive recognition that they could not explain. The device was teaching, but in a way that bypassed conventional reasoning. It was experience turned into perception, perception turned into understanding, and understanding left to emerge naturally over time. What makes this encounter so extraordinary is that it challenges human assumptions about interaction. Humans are accustomed to communication that relies on language, gestures, and direct feedback. This device operated outside those norms. It did not speak, it did not move in predictable patterns, it did not issue commands, and yet it communicated in a manner far richer than words, revealing that the universe may allow for forms of interaction that transcend human expectation. It presented intelligence and awareness directly, in a form that humans could feel rather than merely observe. Some witnesses even described visions or impressions that accompanied the device. Shapes, symbols, or flashes of light seemed to unfold in the mind without words, forming patterns that suggested meaning or purpose. It was not hallucination, nor was it fully conscious thought. It was a blending of perception and presence, a subtle invitation to understand through experience rather than instruction. The phenomenon mirrors ideas found in mystical traditions, where objects, symbols, or natural occurrences are not merely material, but vessels for consciousness, awareness, or revelation. The device seemed to embody this principle, becoming both physical object and experiential bridge at the same time. The presence of the device also reinforces the idea that the visitor's goal was not confrontation, but engagement. The encounter at Stallion Range was a test of perception and response, not aggression. The craft, the beings, and the device operated as parts of a single system, each element contributing to an experience designed to challenge, educate, or expand human awareness. Weapons proved ineffective. Humans were forced to observe rather than act, and yet they were not endangered. The lesson was clear. Understanding and observation, rather than force, are the keys to interacting with phenomena that exceed human knowledge. The implications of the device extend beyond the encounter itself. If this object represents a form of communication, it suggests that humans are only beginning to perceive ways of interacting with intelligence that do not rely on language or physical manipulation. Consciousness, energy, and perception may be far more flexible than traditionally believed. The universe may contain principles of interaction that operate outside our current frameworks of science, physics, and biology, and the device provides a glimpse into this possibility. It is not simply a tool, it is evidence of a reality in which communication, understanding, and intelligence function in ways humans have yet to master. As the craft lifted and the visitors withdrew, the device disappeared back into the vessel, leaving those present with a profound sense of awe and uncertainty. The object had been more than a technological curiosity. It was a message, a challenge, and an invitation all at once. Its glow lingered in memory, its resonance continued to affect perception, and its presence left a question that refuses to fade. What does intelligence look like when it's not bound by human expectations? And how can humans respond when faced with forces far beyond their comprehension? The Stallion Range incident and the appearance of the device shows a crucial point. The universe may contain intelligence that operates on entirely different levels from our own. Observation and understanding are as important as action, and awareness may be the key to bridging the divide between species, dimensions, or forms of consciousness. The encounter offers a rare window into a reality that challenges assumptions, provokes reflection, and expands the limits of human perception. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.